Hello and welcome to Vessel and Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Charlson. And in today's episode, we're discussing hard work, productivity, and how that impacts your self-worth. Let's get into it. Today's podcast offers a very different perspective on the idea of productivity. And I think this is a very important topic for us to be considering right now, especially as we're getting towards the end of the year and we're looking back at what we have produced, what we have done, and said, oh, I had all these goals that maybe I didn't meet, or maybe I did meet them, and judging our worth as people on that amount of productivity. And whether or not you're an entrepreneur or you work in corporate or you're just your average person trying to make ends meet, there is a certain amount of the society that we live in judges our ability to be a good person and a productive person based off of our output. There is a certain amount of the capitalistic nature of the environment that we're in, of that we need to produce so we can consume, to produce, to consume, and it's this continuation of this cycle. In today's podcast, Monty offers a really different perspective on it. Instead of saying productivity is the basis of our worth, it is the soul alignment that is the basis of our worth, and how well we can line up with our soul energies. Now, of course, that does get into still the ideas of worth being tied to our abilities. And I do think this is a little bit of an interesting perspective, because it is about, rather than letting go of those external energies and being yourself and allowing that to be then the productivity, and that all the results of being yourself are byproducts. Monty has talked about this in many different episodes before, and especially I can think of, I believe it's episode 3, I will link it in the show notes below, about how our choices make our life path. And a lot of times when we're thinking about our productivity, our worth, it is, how is my path in life led me towards having the career that was most productive, towards having the effect on the world, leaving a legacy, building a family, doing all of those different things that maybe we have a vision for. And it's all those things outwardly. So in today's episode, Monty is offering this different perspective, and I'd love to hear what you think. So you can send us a text and ask any follow-up questions, or just share how this episode is resonating with you. And as well, if you would like to send us what your goals are for 2026 to get some feedback, Monty would be delighted to hear from you. Let's get into it. Humans love to hold the belief that their worth is rooted in their productivity, that how much you can achieve in your lifetime, the legacy that you can create, is how valuable you are as an individual. This goes both for your career in terms of how much work you produce, the work that you leave behind, the lives that you change as part of that work, as well as your relationships, how much you can love the one that you are with, how much you can produce children even, how well you can care for those children. All of this is a different version of productivity, of the physical effects and legacy in the physical realm that you leave behind. And this is a question that we are often asked of, how can I achieve results with reducing my emphasis on productivity? And what could my life look like if I were to allow my efforting and productivity to not be an important self-judgment of how I am a worthy individual? It is important first to consider that your worth as an individual is just the worth of your energy, just the worth of who you are, what you are being in every moment of every day. It is the energy that you bring through and bring into the physical realm through your soul, through your unique energetic makeup, that means that you are worthy or not. And what we mean by this is that if you are constantly bringing in external energies that are not you, that are not in alignment with you, that are not a manifestation of your unique energy in collaboration with other energies, with other beings, then you have not done the job that you are truly here to do. Instead, if you are acting in alignment with your soul energies, you are collaborating with energies that are in alignment with who you are and with other beings who are in alignment with who you are, then you have done the work that your soul set out to do, to express its energy into the world. Now, you would think, but Monty, is this not the same then as producing things, as I am using my physical energy, my logical mind, my abilities to bring through energy into the world to do work? Is that not the same judgment? But when you view it just from purely energy, you could sit doing absolutely nothing, coordinating with absolutely no one, and just exuding the energies of your soul, letting them radiate out into the world, and you would create something that, from an energetic standpoint, would serve the purpose of why you are here. And for some individuals, this is how they have lived their lives. This is how they have created change in the world, was just by sitting in their own energy with the intention of exuding that energy out into the world. This is a very different perspective than saying that you must sit at your computer and answer your emails and produce the things that you need to produce to make money, to then create an effect in the world, to create stability for your family. The very conventional idea of living your human life. They are very at odds, saying, I could sit and do absolutely nothing but be myself, and I would be a productive version of me. And somehow, in many ways, that is more productive than going to work, producing work that is very out of alignment, that does not hold any of your values, that is detrimental to your physical and mental health, takes a toll on you, on those around you, and yet you have the picture-perfect life. You have all of the things that someone would look on you and say, wow, they are so successful. It is a very different perspective when you look at it this way of saying, well, if I were to do nothing and be in alignment, what would that mean in terms of my productivity? What would it mean in terms of my value as a person, as a human being, and my contributions to the world? It is a very different role that you would play. And this is what we offer, of contemplating these two extremes, because they are extremes in their own right. We are never advocating that you should sit in meditation, exuding your own energy as the only thing that you do in your life. Nor are we advocating for the opposite of saying that you self-abandon and focus on the physical world so much that you forget who you really are. No, it is in the middle of those two. It is the balance of saying, I am who I am and I acknowledge who I am. I know my soul energies and I act in accordance with them. I act in alignment with them where I am able to as best that I can. And I create what I can create with those energies in collaboration with others and within other energies to create things that are the manifestation of this viewpoint, this perspective, this vision for the world, for myself, for those around me. And that vision is very unique to each and every one of us. While you may choose to create certain things in your life, how you create them and the form that they take is very different from someone else, even if you are creating the same things. It is the energy of who you are that changes what it is of the end result. But it always begins with who you are being. and how you then are interacting with those different energies. So, when it comes to the idea and concept of how can I be productive in life as best that I am able to be a contributing member of this universe, it is saying, I know who I am, and I'm going to act in alignment to the best of my abilities. It is not self-abandoning to be as productive as possible, but it is also not abandoning the world to be just myself and nothing else, involved with nothing and no one. It is that balance of those two. And when you begin to instead assign your value as you, as a human being, onto the expression of your unique energies, your unique perspective in the world, then it becomes much easier to judge yourself of saying, I feel as though I have done a good job at this, or I feel I could have done better. And that is okay. I am who I am in this moment. And while I can see who I want to be and what I want to create in the future, right now, I have been as productive as I could at channeling through my own energies, at collaborating with others to bring about this perspective. Now, when it comes to the world at large that says you must self-abandon, you must create as much as possible, you must have all of those accolades to be a respectable person, to be deemed productive and successful, that is when it is the returning to your inner vision that is important. Does your inner vision for who you want to be incorporate someone who does the things that society tells you are successful? It very well might be that some of them do feel in alignment with your deepest desires of your soul. Others may feel as though they are in your deepest desires because someone told you to desire it. And it is always part of the task of understanding your role by investigating where those things come from, where those desires are rooted. It can be a very difficult and deep process of understanding. Is it because I am seeking love that I am trying to be productive in this way? Is it because I have fear of rejection that I am being successful in this way? Is it because I would rather be looked upon as something desirable rather than myself, and I am being this way? It is always that question of what it is that you truly desire and your definition of when you are in alignment with your soul energies and with yourself that is the judgment of whether or not you have been productive. Now, the other thing that we will add is that productivity is not results-based. Productivity is saying, I have been my soul as fully and completely as I could. I acted in alignment as best that I could. The results are not an indicator of how in alignment you were in that moment, because there are many things outside of your control. There are many things that will not work out the way that you want them to just because you have been in alignment. As we have said before, you live in a complex world of many energies, but it is your duty to yourself to, instead of judging based off of results, to judge yourself based off of how well you held the energy of yourself, how well you stayed in tune with that, regardless of whether or not you are in meditation or producing great works. We hope that this helps you understand how to be productive. That is all. Monty asks us to shift our perspective to an idea of productivity that has absolutely nothing to do with results or output. It rather has to do with the state of being that we are, of how much we are doing a good job of embodying our souls and being aligned with our truest version of ourselves. And when we recalibrate to this idea of productivity, of it being more in alignment rather than doing more, it really changes our perspective on how productive we've been. So as you're looking at the last year and saying, okay, this is what I accomplished, this is what I want to do in this next year, when we recalibrate that perspective to say, okay, what did I do that was really in alignment this year? What did I do that really felt like me? And how can I do more of that in this next year? It really sets a different tone for our intentions for 2026. And it also begs the question of asking ourselves, when do we feel really worthy? And I am willing to bet it was never when you checked everything off your list. It is never when you accomplish those things that you set out to accomplish, because we have a tendency to always move that productivity line, to move it further, to say we could get more, we could produce more, we could work harder. And that changes as well our relationship with rest, which we've talked about before on this podcast, of what does it mean to rest and what it means is to come into union with our own soul energies. So that means that rest is also productive when we change this perspective of what productivity means. But what I love is Monty is saying that it is this in between. It's not the doing nothing and only ever being in alignment with yourself in meditation all day long, but it's not also self-abandoning to emphasize the external world to an extreme. Productivity is that space in between. It is embodying ourselves as fully as we can and allowing ourselves to then create, to show up, to do things in our physical world. So it's simultaneously allowing us to create results and getting what we want through those means, but it is also, instead of using work to prove ourselves, asking ourselves, okay, was I in alignment? Was I doing this from the right place? And that's the judgment of when we've been productive or not. And it's also reflecting on when productivity is actually seeking something else. So as someone who has a very big history of overworking, I've noticed that I do it because I feel like it's going to give me validation, acceptance, security, because I have tied my self-worth to my productivity, to being a hard worker. When we change that to productivity is when we're in alignment, it's more of, I am intrinsically valuable just for being myself. And everything arises out of that intrinsic value. So the more that I am in alignment with that intrinsic value, the more that I am valuable myself. It is this interesting idea of not that we're less valuable when we are being external energies, when we are producing from those external energies, but rather allowing us to bring that intrinsic value to the world as best that we can. So it's not saying one is more valuable than the other. It's just manifesting that value in a more present way, if you would. So it's really allowing yourself to then judge your productivity rather than based on your results and being disappointed that you didn't meet what you wanted or you moved the goalpost yet again by saying, I was really myself while I did this. I can be proud because I brought every part of me to it. And I showed up, continued to be there. I hope that this episode has helped you reframe productivity and your self-worth, especially as we're going into 2026. Now, as your final reminder for the month, we have been working through setting intentions for who we want to become in 2026. There is still time to join us in the Awakened Authenticity community. If you would like to take us up on the offer for a free month, we would love to have you there. We hope to see you in the community soon, and we will see you in the next episode.